started. And so what today's discussion is based on is the ebook that I recently released. It's called The $853 Solar System. The subtitle is You Don't Need to Be Fancy to Have Free Energy. And so I wanted to, just kind of share my insights from the very first solar system that I installed in my first van over 4.5 years ago. I had a little bit of experience with electrical, and I just decided I was going to jump in, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, and order some products on Amazon and try to figure it out. And so through trial and error, I put together this system, and it lasted me. I had the van for 2.5 years. And so this system ran pretty much flawless for 2.5 years, and I didn't really have any issues with it. And so I know when I talk to people about solar, a lot of people's initial concern is either that it's really complicated or that it's really expensive. And so I really wanted to be able to share with people that solar power doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be expensive. I would love for everybody that wants it to be able to have solar and take advantage of free energy. So that's what we're going to talk about. Hello, Diane. I see that we got a message from Just Diane. She says it's a bit chilly up in New Hampshire. Never been to New Hampshire, but I'm very interested in it. In fact, I heard there's a very strong freedom community up in New Hampshire. A lot of folks that are into off-grid and homesteading and producing their own food. And they're interested in kind of, pulling together as a community, and they're interested in sustaining themselves and moving forward kind of without some of the government overreach that we've seen, especially in the recent years. And so for that reason, I would be interested in visiting New Hampshire and kind of meeting some of the freedom folk up there and just see what's going on. I feel like it's probably beautiful in the summertime, but if it's April and it's still chilly, then it might not be a good spot to live in a van all year round. I don't know. I've never been, but I would definitely love to visit New Hampshire. What's your experience, Diane? Are you into freedom at all? Do you love freedom? A lot of van life people like freedom. So I'm curious if you have any experience with the freedom community in New Hampshire. Feel free to reply if you like. If not, that's okay. Okay, so Diana has a great question. She says, what's best, more solar panels or more batteries? And so let me go ahead. Let me see if I'm recording really quick. I wanted to record this. There we go. Okay, I'm going to record this so that I can save it to the cloud. Anyway, okay, Diana says, what's best, more solar panels or more batteries? And so that depends what your goal is, Diana. The two pieces work independently. So your solar panels, those are your energy collection devices. So during the day when the sun's out, you have the sun rays shining down on the solar panels. And so the more solar panels you have, the more solar energy you can capture, right? So that's what allows you to capture energy. And then the batteries that's your storage system. So the biggest thing with batteries is when the sun is not shining, whether that be at night or whether that be just on a cloudy day, maybe you run into some clouds or an overcast day, or you park under some trees and you don't have good sunlight, then the batteries are what's going to keep all your electronics and your equipment functioning while you're not getting good sunlight. So it's good to have both. You definitely want to have a good amount of solar panels to batteries. There's a ratio. And so they typically recommend that you have, I believe it's 2 watts of solar per amp hour of batteries, right? So if you had 100 amp hour battery, you would want to have 200 watts of solar. And so that's kind of just a good way to make sure you have a balanced system. So if you wanted kind of something a little more robust, you might consider maybe like a 300 watt solar system, and then maybe like a 200 amp hour battery, something like that would kind of be good. Now there's more formulas that you can get into to kind of determine what your energy usage is going to be. And the best way to really build a solar system is to try to anticipate what equipment you need to run. So for example, a refrigerator, a fan, lighting, all those different devices that you want to use. Each of those devices will have an electrical rating, which would be watts per hour, how much watts they consume. And so you basically want to take all your devices, add up how much watts they all consume. So let's say you have 200 watts of electronics. You have a 10 watt plug-in device and a 20 watt device and a 50 watt device. And altogether, they all equal 200 watts. That watt rating is per hour. So that means if you're running all your devices at the same time, then they would require 200 watts of electricity per hour. So in order to power all those devices properly, you would want to have at least 200 watts of solar panels on the roof to power those devices. And then at nighttime, when you're not able to collect light from the sun, then that's when your battery is going to step in and provide the power. And so you would want to make sure that your battery has enough storage for 200 watts of power over the time span of however long it's going to be dark. So like in the wintertime, it might be dark 8, 9, 10 hours. In the summertime, it might be dark less. So either way, you would want to have a battery bank that's big enough to hold that charge for you overnight. And so for most, typical appliances like lights in a refrigerator and maybe a cooktop, that type of thing, for the most part, most of your devices you're going to use during the day. The only thing that you might really run in the evening while there's no sun is your refrigerator. That runs all the time. And then maybe like a fan if it's summertime. Or if you're really ambitious with your solar system, you could run a air conditioner while you're sleeping at night. If you're in Texas or Florida, or other areas that get hot and humid, some places in the summer, you have to run the air conditioning kind of all night while you're sleeping. So if you're trying to do air conditioning, which that's actually a question I'm going to answer in a minute. I had a lady that asked me about doing air conditioning on solar. So if you want to do AC on solar, then you really have to get into some calculations and figure out what size system you need. But long story short, Diana, it depends what you want to do. I like to have more solar and less battery, because for me, the only thing I'm really doing when there's no sun out is running the refrigerator and maybe a fan. Also, batteries are way more expensive than solar. So like, I have 600 watts of solar and it's 2 300-watt panels. And I got these 300-watt panels from Santan Solar for $100 a piece versus 100 amp hours of, say, a lithium ion battery is going to cost you about at least like $400 if you get kind of the Amazon China ones. If you want like a battle-born lithium, then 100 amp hours of lithium is like $700. So solar panels are cheaper. And if you have a big vehicle, like I know Diane has a shuttle bus, so I know she can fit a lot of solar on her roof. She could easily fit, 1,000 watts of solar, and which would be overkill for what she might need. But I'm just saying it's easier to just add on a bunch of cheap solar than it is to add on a huge battery bank. So there's definitely some formulas. And if you guys want help more specifically with determining what size electrical system you need, because the biggest thing that you don't want is you don't want to get out, you're living off, you're traveling, and then you find out that your system doesn't last you. Maybe your battery's dying overnight, or your refrigerator's turning off because the voltage is low because your battery's not big enough. So these are all things that I can help you guys with. Find the formulas, do the numbers, and make sure you guys have the proper size solar system. And so I did that in my first system over 4.5 years ago. I had I sized everything out with a voltage calculator, and then I sized my solar panels and batteries accordingly, and that way I never ran out of power. That being said, I always try to do most of my energy demanding things during the day when the sun is out. So like cooking, I cook with all electric. So if I'm using my Instant Pot or an induction cooktop, I try to do that during the day when there's a lot of sun and it's basically just free energy and my batteries are full anyway. So I try to do that during the day. And then like if I'm going to charge, I make sure all my batteries are charged, my laptop, my phone, my iPad, my power tools. I make sure that I'm charging all that stuff during the day. So at nighttime, when there's no sun out, I'm not charging a laptop. My phone's not plugged in. Everything is kind of ready to go. So it's definitely one of those things where you want to kind of shift your mindset a little bit when you get into van life and make sure you're always taking advantage of that free energy. So I hope that answers your question. I could talk forever, but I want to go down back to the questions. And I see I have one more from Diane. I'm going to look at hers, and then also one from Pisces, perhaps. They say, keep in mind, fridge and AC don't run continuously. They turn on and off per hour in terms of power draw. Yes, that is true. Your refrigerator and your air conditioner, they're not nonstop, but the ratings on the air conditioner is per hour. So there's a formula to figure out how much energy is it actually consuming. And so those are not fixed values. They will change, especially with an air conditioner, where you're at in the country, what time of year it is. In the summertime, especially in a vehicle, a van, a bus, they're not insulated like houses are. Houses are much more insulated, so they can hold the cold air in and they can keep the heat out a lot longer than a shuttle bus or a van that might only have an inch of insulation. So I can tell you, in this box truck, I was in Texas last summer and I bought an air conditioner. I bought one of the freestanding like portable air conditioners you get at Home Depot, and it was the biggest one that they sell. It was 14,000 BTUs. And I ran it off a generator inside my box truck. And on the hottest day in Texas last year, it was in the mid 90s. It was humid, and it did not properly cool down my van because I was in the sun. And I have, what do I have? I have 1 inch of polystyrene insulation on the rig. But when I was inside my van, like, you could stand right in front of the air conditioner and you could feel it blasting cold air on you, and it felt great. But when you would like walk over to like the wall in the van, you could feel the heat just like radiating in from outside. So it's definitely one of those things where, if you're going to do air conditioning, you have to make sure your insulation is correct. When I build my next vehicle, I think I'm going to do spray foam, and I'm probably going to do like 3 inches of insulation and really try to envelop my living space, because I was pretty surprised that a regular air conditioner just did not keep the van cool. So something to keep in mind with air conditioning. And then jumping back to Diane, she mentions she has 400 amp hours of batteries. I need to know what size I should get for the other components. I can't put solar on my roof, so I know I need portable panels. What do you recommend for B2B, MPPT, etc.? Okay, so yes. Okay, so sorry guys, I'm reading through the comments as they're coming in. 400 amp hours of batteries. So as far as portable panels go, you have a couple options. They have the all-in-one solar generator kits. Like Renogy makes a big one. It's called the Lycan. And then there's other companies too, like Bluetti, they're called solar generators. And so they'll have a built-in battery pack, but then also they can power external batteries as well. So if you went with something like that, then the portable solar generator, that would have like your 110 volt plug where you can plug in like a laptop charger or something. And it has USB chargers for phones. And then you can plug panels directly into it. So you can go that route. And then that's kind of a simple approach in the sense that you don't have to build your own system. You don't have to buy a separate power inverter and a separate charge controller. It's all going to be contained in this one box that you buy. And then you just plug in your panels, and then you connect clips to your batteries. So you can go that route. Or what you can do, and what I've done in the past, is you can just buy a charge controller. Now, I always recommend, because Diane asks specifically, what do you recommend, like an MPPT or a B2B? And so I recommend MPPT charge controllers. It's an acronym. It doesn't really matter what it stands for, but it stands for, I think it's multi-point position tracking. But all you need to know is it's the most efficient charge controller technology available. So all that matters is it's the most efficient, and it will be able to collect the most amount of sun. And the other great thing about an MPPT controller is you can use high voltage panels, like residential panels. Like on my box truck, I have 38-volt residential panels, big, huge 300-watt panels on the roof, and you can plug them into an MPPT, and it will safely reduce the voltage down to a safe amount for your battery bank. So with a regular controller, which is a PWM, pulse wave modified, I think that's what it is. It's been so long since I've used the generic charge controller. I think it's called a PWM. Anyway, if you use the PWM charge controllers, they can't do that. So you're limited to 12-volt solar panels. And most 12-volt solar panels are just like 100 watts or maybe 200. So Diane, if you can't put solar on your roof, then you're going to want portable panels. You're probably going to want the folding soft, like the suitcase panels. They're easy to maintain. You can fold them out. And I think you can get the suitcase panels in 200 to 300 watts. I think that's about the limit. And so if you got a pair of those, then you could have, maybe 400 watts or so of solar panels. So I would recommend, if you can handle it, to probably get two 200-watt foldable suitcase solar panels. And then those solar panels, you can connect them directly to the charge controller. And then from the charge controller output, you can connect those directly to your batteries, right? And then from your batteries, that's where you will connect all your devices, refrigerator, whatever you're running. So as long as you're comfortable doing that and hooking up all your circuits to the batteries, then I think you should probably go for a couple 200 watt folding solar suitcases. And I think you can probably get those for about $150 a piece. And they're pretty cool. I've used them before. They're easy to set up, easy to clean off. One thing to keep in mind is because they're angled, not like a flat panel you put on the roof. With a flat panel on the roof of your van, as the sun goes across the sky, the sun is basically always shining down on your panels. So you don't have to really move your solar panels. Some people get specific and they tilt their solar panels, but you don't really need to. But with the suitcase solar panels, they have like a little stand. So they kind of sit like at an angle. And so as the sun moves through the sky, you have to move the solar panels. So I just know that because I've had a suitcase solar system, the portable panels, and I know. So just keep in mind, you'll have to monitor them. It's not like you can just put them out in the morning and then that's it. And then I'll just leave them out and I'm good. You'll have to kind of watch them and move them around a little bit. Diane says, what size charge controller? So on the charge controllers, I really like the Renogy Rover charge controllers. I've always used Renogy and they've worked really well for me. And they're affordable. Like I know for a fact you can get the 20 amp Renogy Rover charge controller for about $100 on Amazon. And it's really easy to use. All the instructions are in English. It's easy to set up. You don't have to really like program anything. It has presets. So like if you have lead acid batteries or AGM or lithium batteries, you just go through the settings and you just tell it what batteries are connected and that's it. And you're done. Versus some of the other like weird Amazon China ones, you have to put in like what voltage to charge it at and a bunch of other stuff. And like the interface is confusing. And so I just like the Renogy. It's affordable. It's easy to use. And they've always lasted really well for me. So I recommend Renogy, but there's a lot of different brands. You asked what size controller. And so you need to match your charge controller input to your solar panel output. So when you're looking at your solar panels, it will have a voltage output and an amperage output. And so I think a 12-volt solar panel, 100 watt, there's a lot of numbers going on, bear with me. A 100-watt panel that's 12 volts, which most of your suitcase foldable panels will be 12 volts. I believe the amperage will be about 8 amps, if my memory serves me. You should, but look at the specifications, right? So when you're on Amazon, wherever you're at, when you're looking at your solar panels, figure out how many you're going to get and how many amps each of them put out. So I believe you will find about 8 amps per panel. And so if you get 2 of those, then you would need a charge controller that can handle at least 16 amps. Okay. And so, like I just recommended, the Renogy 20 amp charge controller that I know is about $100, right? So if however many panels you're going to use, if the amount of amps totals less to 20 amps, use a 20 amp controller. If it's going to be more, then you can step up. I think they have there's a 20 amp. I think there's a 30 amp, and there's a 40 amp, and there's a 60 amp charge controller. So that's all the solar stuff, all the electrical stuff. It's all specific to because you're building a system. So it's all specific to what system you're building. It's not really complicated. It's just knowing what information you need to add together and then where to find that information. So if you guys have any other questions, ask in the chat, or you can always email me, nomadbrad@vanliferx.com. I'm happy just to help you guys out. But that's an answer for your question. The charge controller depends on the size of the panels. Pick the panels you want, look at the amp outputs, and match the amp outputs to the amp inputs of your charge controller, and make sure it's an MPPT because you want all the energy you can get. And then I see one more from, yes, I'm a Pisces. I got it right. Yes, that's what I was thinking. I was kind of looking at it. I was like, I think I'm a Pisces. Into the astrology, I dig it. I was born August 16th, and so I am a Leo. And I would always think that Leo was the proper astrological sign. But then I found out that I'm actually like your rising sign is more powerful than your sun sign. And so I think my sun sign's a Leo, but my rising is a Scorpio. And so I'm actually like a Scorpio, which I've always been told Scorpios are like, you know, a little bit shady and like devious. And so this whole time I thought I was a good, you know, courageous, helpful person that just wanted to help people. And now maybe I'm a Scorpio. So I don't know what to think, but that's my little bit that I know about astrology. So anyway, I'm a Pisces says also some batteries say watt hours versus amp hours. Not sure how to translate. Yes, that's true. So initially all batteries were rated in amp hours. Like on a car, for the last 100 years, when you buy a car battery, it's 12 volts. It always is rated in amp hours. But since the solar electrical movement, I've noticed that on a lot of batteries, they're advertising watt hours. And so there's a simple calculation. I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you just type into Google watt hours, amp hours conversion, that's it. Watt hours, amp hours conversion into Google, and it'll tell you how to do it. You just like divide one number by the other number. But the reason they've done that is because solar panels are rated in watts. Watts is kind of the consumption. And so all your appliances, when you're looking at how much they're consuming, you're interested in watts. And so the manufacturers want to make it easier for you to pair up your battery with your panels, with your components, by listing the energy capacity in watt hours. So that is why watt hours, amp hours, it's different measurements, but it's the same amount of energy. So just make sure, when you are shopping for batteries, you look at one versus the other. I know, especially on the solar generators, like the Jackeries and all those little devices, they always list those in watt hours. So anyway, there's a difference. Just Google it. I would tell you right now, but I would do it for you right now. But as I mentioned earlier, my jetpack is down. And so I have to use my iPhone, and I don't have any other way to do research for you guys while doing a live Zoom. So you'll have to just do it for yourself, or email me and I'll figure it out for you. We'll work through it together. It's no problem. Yeah, Diane says she's also a Scorpio. We love to teach. Diana says, LOL, Scorpios are, but we are also a lot more. Me too. Is Diana a Scorpio? And Diane is a Scorpio, and Nomad Brad is a Scorpio rising. It's like Scorpion Den up in here. I tell you, it's at least I'm not alone. You know, I feel like everyone here is is kind of sticking together. So here we go. Just Diane hopped in. Volts times amps equals watts. Thank you, Diane. So if you take the amp hours of your battery and you multiply it by, say it's a 12 volt battery, then you have your watt hours. So it's all right there. Thank you, Diane. Very easy. I'm a Pisces, says, okay, we'll do. Sun and rising signs can arm wrestle each other. Usually rising sign is first. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off astrology. I'd love to know about it. And I'm actually happy to see that three of the people, everybody in the chat is talking about astrology. Maybe I should have a Nomad Brad, Van Life, Solar, and Astrology channel. But I want to stay on topic. For those of you, the rest of you that don't care about astrology, I want to keep it to solar. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hop to the questions that people emailed in. These are questions for people that couldn't make the live today because they have 9-to-5 jobs or they have something better to do than sit on YouTube. I don't blame them. It might be beautiful where they're at. They want to be out enjoying life. So here are some questions. The first one is a banger. It's coming from Amanda. And I want to do this one first because it kind of falls in with all the electrical talk. She asked me about air conditioning. So I know Amanda, I see her on Instagram. I know she lives in a short bus and I know that she travels all over the place. She's an artist and it looks like she has like a husky dog, which get very hot. They have very heavy coats. And it also looks like she spends time in warm weather like Florida and Texas and California. So I would assume that Amanda wants to keep not only herself cool inside of her bus, but also her furry companion as well. So I'm sure he overheats before she does. And so her question was, let's see what she says. What are some tips for running an air conditioner off solar power? Is it even possible without some kind of backup? And so the answer is yes, it is possible to run solar power off or to run air conditioning off solar power. Many people do it. The challenge is, as we were talking earlier in this live, the challenge is that if you want to run, it's easy to collect enough energy during the day to run air conditioning. However, it's difficult to store enough energy to run your air conditioner when the sun is not shining, whether it's a cloudy day or you're running it into the evening. If you're down in Florida, it's humid all night. You need that air conditioning to run while you're sleeping. And so that's where it gets difficult because air conditioning is very energy intensive. I don't know why. I mean, I know air conditioning uses a compressor and it's a very inefficient mechanical process. So unfortunately, air conditioning requires a ton of energy, a ton of electricity, and that means you need a big battery bank to power that air conditioner. And so I wanted to give you guys direct experience. I have a friend named Brian. His account on Instagram is WuzABus, WuzABus, WuzABus on Instagram. And I'm telling you guys that because he is a traveling craftsman for van life, bus life. He has a beautiful bus that he built out that's his own bus, and he travels and does work for other people. So if you need electrical work, solar work, and air conditioning installed, cabinets, flooring, if you need any help on your conversion, hit up Brian, tell him Nomad Brad sent you. He'll give you the deal, but he's happy to help you guys out and figure out what you need for your system, because depending on the size of your vehicle, depending on how much insulation you have, where you want to use your air conditioning, that will determine what components you need, how much battery you need, and that will determine how much the system costs. So it's a process. It's not difficult. We just got to crunch some numbers. So I can help you. Brian can help you. Brian can do it for you. But the reason I'm mentioning Brian is that I've toured his bus, which is beautiful. He has air conditioning, and he actually has one of those ductless mini split style systems. So you see those a lot, like on bigger school buses and stuff. And they have like the big rectangle unit outside with the fan. And then inside the unit, it's got the big rectangle piece up in the wall. And they also use these in houses and condos. Some hotels use them. So you've probably seen them before. They're very popular because they're very energy efficient, much more efficient than like a residential window air conditioner. And they're very affordable to purchase. And the other benefit is they also provide heating. So they're not only cooling, they also can do heating. So that way, wherever you're at, if you have sun, if it's wintertime and you're a nomad like me and you go to Arizona and you're in the sun and it might be a little bit cool during the day, you can also heat your vehicle with free energy from the sun as well as cool it. So it's a beautiful system. His bus, I said, Brian, give me the details. What does it take? Because I've heard all kinds of figures and thousands of watts and all this jargon. I said, what does it take, dude? I want to put it in my vehicle. What do I need? So he runs his ductless heat pump off of 800 watts of solar, which is incredible because I've heard people talking about 1,000 watts or more in order to run air conditioning. So 800 watts of solar and 600 amp hours of lithium batteries. Now that's the catch, is the 600 amp hours of lithium. And with that, he's able to run his air conditioning system all night into the next day. So I did a little bit of a calculation for you guys. And so if you, the air conditioner itself, now you can even get the window unit air conditioners, and they're going to use about the same energy, about 500 watts, but they provide way less cooling and they don't do heating. But either way, if you're doing a window air conditioner, the biggest one they make is about $500. If you go with the ductless heat pump, like what Brian has, those are about $800. Now, 800 watts of solar with all the electrical that you need and an inverter and all that jazz. If you stick with 110 volt ductless heat pump, you're about $1,000 for all those pieces. So just that, you're $1,500 to $1,800 for air conditioning, to run an air conditioner while the sun is shining. That is not a bad deal. That's very doable, right? $1,800. You don't have to buy gas for a generator. You have unlimited air conditioning or heating while the sun is shining. But here's the catch. If you want to power that unit while it's not sunny, he needs 600 amp hours of battery storage, lithium. And so 100 amp hours of lithium battery, if you go with the cheap China stuff, it's about $300. No, it's about $360 for 100 amp hours. The expensive stuff, the Battle Born, is about $700. So you could potentially be spending $3,000 to $4,000 just on batteries to keep that system running overnight. So that's where it gets complicated. It gets a little spendy. So the whole system together now, the air conditioner, the 1,000 watts for the solar, the batteries, if you wanted to do all that, like my friend Brian has, and you want to be able to run heating and cooling all the time at night, you're $5,700 to $6,000 just in components. That's not installed. That's not for Brian to help you install it. That's like, if you just buy all the stuff and have it shipped to your door, that's what it costs, right? So it's pretty expensive. I mean, it depends, I guess, on your budget. But like, to me, $6,000 is a lot of money, and it's not something that I'm quickly gonna just fork over for that. So one thought that I have, which you guys might like, is go ahead and get the big solar system, get the air conditioner, and that's $1,500 to $1,800. And then I would get, maybe get $200 or $300, 300 amp hours of lithium. And so altogether, now you're maybe only $3,000 into your electrical system. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get a small gas generator, like the good ones. I want a quiet one and I want a reliable one. So I'm going to get like the little Honda, 1,500 watt generator. Those are about $1,000. So all in, I would be looking at, maybe $3,500 to $4,000. And then what I would do is I would be able to charge my batteries all day, use the batteries for all my home appliances, my fridge, my laptop, my lighting, all that. I can run the air conditioner or the heater all day, as long as the sun is shining all day. You can run that stuff. And then in the evening, if I need to run one of those, my air conditioner, then I would just use the gas generator as energy source. And I think, I kind of like having a gas generator anyway, because if you do run into depending where you're at, if you run into a few days of cloud cover and you don't get good sun exposure, then your solar system is going to kind of run out. It's going to be real low anyway. A couple cloudy days in Texas, for me, when I was there last year, and I'm kind of having to really be careful about what electronics I use. So I think it's a good idea to maybe have a generator to supplement, to run stuff overnight, especially since I wouldn't be using air conditioning overnight all the time. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to cut the spiel short. You might consider doing a bunch of solar, doing your air conditioner, take advantage of free energy during the day. And then that way you only have to pay for gas in your generator for the times you need to use it in the evening. I also think it's a great idea to get a diesel heater for heating as well. If you don't want to do the heat pump system and you just are curious about how you can heat your vehicle at night, the diesel heater, I have one in my box truck. It uses very little energy, very little electricity, and it runs for like 3-4 nights, actually more, probably 4 or 5 nights off of just 2.5 gallons of diesel gas. So I think a diesel heater is a great choice. So that is my answer for you, Amanda. You can run solar. It gets very expensive. It depends on what your budget is. So you might consider just getting a generator. Or the other thing you can do too, I didn't really mention, is depending on your situation, you can have a shore power plug-in, or you can have an alternator, your alternator from your vehicle charge your battery bank. So those are a couple different options. If you're going to be staying like with friends or at campgrounds or places where you have plug-in power, then running an air conditioner is no problem. You can just plug in, run the air conditioner that way. Or I know Amanda, she was mentioning she has already a battery isolator to charge her house battery. So you would need a more beefy one most likely, but you could do something similar to where if you turn on and ran your bus, you would then be able to run the air conditioner. So those are a few options. Of course, that's just kind of a wild, hey, here's a bunch of options. But if you want more detailed info or you want to kind of explore those options more closely, let me know. We can work through it. Okay, let me go back to the comments. And I see Diana says, can solar system charge house batteries? Yes, it can. So they make a product called a DC to DC charger. And it is a great way to do that. Back in the day, the way to charge your house batteries off of your, I'm sorry, hold on, I read that wrong. I apologize. Diana says, can solar system charge house batteries? Yes, your solar system should be charging your house batteries. That is the primary reason for solar. So the house batteries are the batteries that are not connected to your vehicle's motor. So your vehicle's motor, those are called your starting batteries. And then the batteries that are separate from your vehicle motor, those are called the house batteries. And so those typically are the ones that are connected directly to your charge controller and to your solar panels. What I thought Diana was asking was, can solar system charge your vehicle batteries, your engine batteries? And the answer to that is yes. So they make a piece called the DC to DC charger, and I recommend everyone get one. They're about $100, I believe, on Amazon. And the way it works, it's basically just a battery charger. But what you do is you hook one end to your solar panels and one end to your house battery. And then you hook the other end to your car battery. And so then when your solar power is running, it charges your house batteries. And once your house batteries are full, the sun has filled up all the capacity of your house batteries, then it allows that electricity to flow into your starting battery on your vehicle. So it keeps your vehicle battery charged. And one reason that is very handy is if you were parked somewhere for a long time, like I had this system in my very first van. And so I could go and boondock and I could park my van for 2 weeks and never start the car and not have to worry about the battery dying. I could turn the car lights on. I could run the car radio. I could run my headlights and be confident that my engine battery was being charged by the sun and I would never have a dead battery. Otherwise, if I'm parked for 2 weeks without that system, you want to try to start your car at least once a week, let the battery charge up, make sure you don't have a dead battery when you try to start your car and drive out of there, because you don't want to be stuck out in the boonies with a dead battery. So I think a DC to DC charger is a great solution. And then the other benefit of the DC to DC charger is that while your engine is running and the alternator is charging your car battery, your starting battery, as soon as that battery is fully charged, then your DC to DC charger will send that electricity back to your house batteries. And so that's great because while you're driving, if you're driving from point A to point B, then you know that your house batteries are charged. If it's not sunny out, or if, well, that's pretty much it, right? If you're driving, the only reason your house batteries aren't going to get charged is if it's not sunny. So if it's a cloudy day and you're driving, then your house batteries are charged. Also, if it's a cloudy day and you just need to charge your house batteries, you don't have to drive. You can just start the engine, let the engine idle, and it will charge up your house batteries. So I think a DC to DC charger is a great idea to add to your solar power system, right along with your charge controller and your power inverter. It just makes everything better. I recommend you guys look into it. I'm going to hop down and look at the questions. I'm a Pisces says low power AC units are coming out lately, including 12 volt versions. Coleman Mach, M-A-C-H, Coleman Mach has a few low power AC and heat pump versions for vans. The Colemans are between 9 and 11 amps. I like that. Yes, I have noticed there's a lot of, the market usually the demand usually drives innovation, right? So now that more people are living in vans, living in RVs, living in school buses, the people that are out there that want to sell stuff like air conditioning companies, they got to figure out where their clients at. So now they're not just, I know Coleman, I used to actually be a residential heating and air conditioning technician. For 10 years, I did HVAC work. I installed air conditioners and gas furnaces. And Coleman was one of the large manufacturers where I was at up in Portland, Oregon. We installed a lot of Coleman heat pumps. And so I know, excuse me, I know that Coleman has been making heating and cooling equipment for a long time. And so it's good to see that they are now getting into 12 volt applications so that us vehicle dwellers can benefit. So as I was saying earlier, the market demands innovation. So there's more and more products that are now being made for us vehicle dwellers. And I have seen, I forget what the brand was. I think it was Pioneer. So there's a brand that makes ductless mini splits, which are very popular for buses and things. That's what I was talking about earlier. They sell on Amazon. The brand is called Pioneer. And I noticed that they just recently released a system for vans. So instead of having that big outdoor unit and then having that big, single unit you mount up on the ceiling, they have a separate unit now that's meant to go like under a bed or, down under a bench seat or something. So it installs inside your van and then it vents to the outside. But then the cooling lines, instead of one big head unit, it has like 4 different round pieces of ductwork that just kind of spider out. So you can run 4 different vents all to different areas within your van, which is actually more ideal to maintain a cool temperature, an even temperature throughout your home. You don't want just one big vent blasting cold air, and then this side of your van has a bunch of heat, coming in from the windshield. What you want to do is have those 4 vents, have 2 in the back, and then maybe 2 in the front, so that cold air comes in and distributes evenly. So I do really like those low power AC units. I'm happy to see the prices coming down. I know there's some companies that were making, like, there's one called like Undermount air conditioners or something, and they're 12 volt, but they're like $3,000 or $4,000, which is still pretty pricey. So I know that Pioneer one that I saw, I think it was only like $2,000. And it might have been under $2,000. It might have been like 17 or 1,800 bucks. So I feel like that's a pretty good value. If you guys, it's still 2,000, but it's getting affordable, guys. So maybe if we hold out another year, who knows, we might get van air conditioning for $1,000 bucks. I don't know. But the good news is things are working in our favor. It's a great time to join van life, guys. Everything is working out. The vans are nice. There's so much more products coming. The technology is increasing. It's so damn comfortable. I love it. I'm in my van home right now, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's such a great place to be. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the questions. Thank you, Amanda, for your question about air conditioning. Let's see what else we have. I'm going to grab some water really quick. I've been rambling for 45 minutes. Let me get a little water break here. All right, man, I feel good. Jumping down to the comments, Diane says, that's good to know. Definitely going to look for one of those mini splits. Yep. Check out the mini splits. Check out the brand Pioneer. And then also look for their, you might go to Google. It might not be, the product might not be on Amazon. You might check Google and type in like Pioneer van air conditioner, something like that. And it might pop up. It's a brand new product. I just saw it. If you can't find it, let me know, because I saved the link. It's in my phone, so I can get it to you guys, but check it out. It's good stuff. Okay, going back to the questions. Jason says, my solar system only cost me, so he read my ebook, and he says my solar system only cost me 300 euros for the panel, charge controller, and the lead battery. Everything I use is 12 volts. Why do I need to spend 853 on your system? I take that back. He did not read my ebook. The last question is from my ebook. Anyway, so I live in America. When I wrote this ebook, I just wrote it based on my experience of living in America, where everyone uses 12 volts for their vehicles, but all the residential appliances are 120 volts. So our laptops, our televisions, all that kind of stuff is 120 volts. Jason was writing me from Europe, where all of their residential appliances, like laptops, are 200. I don't know if they're 240 or 210, but either way, they're high voltage, way more than what we have here. And so they have different demands and needs than what we have here in America. So I can see why in Europe you wouldn't even bother with high voltage residential appliances, because it's really hard to get up to 210 volts. So if you're in Europe, I totally understand. You want to use only 12 volt appliances, and anything that's electric, it's not 12 volts, it ain't going in the van. And he also mentioned that in Europe, you have to have special licensing to install high voltage stuff in vans. Here in America, vans are the wild, wild west. You need all kinds of permits to do stuff in a house. Electrical, air conditioning, even construction, you need permits. But in a van, you can do anything you want. You don't need licensing. You don't have to be certified. They don't care. Nobody's watching. So it's a little bit different in America. One thing I do want to mention, though, on that topic is that I absolutely recommend that everybody use as many 12 volt appliance, or not as many appliances as possible, but make sure that as much of your appliances are 12 volt as possible. So for example, use 12 volt lights. Don't use, regular house lamps. The reason is that your solar system is 12 volts, your battery is 12 volts. If you use a 12 volt appliance, it's using that same energy. You don't have to convert it. When you're using a 110 volt appliance, like to charge your laptop or to power a residential fridge or to power a regular residential television, then you have to use your inverter. And your inverter is taking the 12 volts and converting it to 110 volts. And in the conversion process, you're losing energy, you're losing efficiency, waste is created. So if you can use 12 volt appliances, there's much less waste. So for that reason, I have all 12 volt lighting. I use a 12 volt refrigerator. And the good news is they now make very large 12 volt refrigerators. You can get almost a full size house refrigerator that runs on 12 volts. And that's also a reason why I'm a Pisces recommended 12 volt air conditioners. Anything you can do, if you can stay in 12 volts, then you're going to be much better off. Now, there's some exclusions. If you have a 38 volt solar panel system and a 38 volt battery bank, then you're different. But that stuff is really super expensive. I shouldn't say real. I don't want to be exaggerational here. It's a lot more expensive to have 24 and 38 and 48 volt electrical systems. So they exist, but they're not common. Most people use 12 volt electrical. That's what I use. So one thing you can do is, if you have appliances like laptops and tablets and lighting and televisions, you can look at the actual device. It might have like a 110 volt wall plug, But if it has one of those big black boxes, like it has the wall plug and then a big black box and then like a little plug that goes into your device, that little black box, that's a converter. So it means your device doesn't actually need 110 volts. It uses much less voltage, but it's just designed to work off your house wall plug. So look at the actual device you're trying to power, whether that be your laptop or your iPad. Look at the device, or you can Google online if you have the model number, figure out how much power it needs. And sometimes you can find a 12-volt power adapter. So like for the last laptop I had, my old MacBook, it comes with the regular wall plug, but I was able to just buy a 12-volt cigarette lighter plug for it. And I ran it off my 12-volt accessories, no problem. Same with your iPhone, your tablet, all that stuff. So it's definitely a good idea if you can use 12-volt appliances as much as possible. I appreciate it. One more water break. All right. So Mr. Freedom's in the house. I'm dropping down to the comments here. I see that Mr. Freedom chimed in. He says, yes, you're living the dream, bud. I really like Mr. Freedom. He's a super nice guy. We had a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a one-on-one session. And that reminds me, if you guys are interested in van life and you're getting ready, you're thinking about it, you want to get more into it, but you have questions, you have hesitancies, you feel like you would like some guidance, you want some guidance, feel free to reach out to Old Nomad Brad. I've been living on the road for, it's now over 5 years, guys. It's my 5-year van life anniversary, April this month, 5-year anniversary. And so I have all kinds of answers to all kinds of questions because I've done it. I've figured out how to make it work, where to stay, what kind of solar, what kind of van, what kind of toilet, how do you work on the road, how do you get mail, how do I register a vehicle, all that kind of stuff. I've done it. I have answers for you guys. So if you want help, you can email me, nomadbrad@vanliferx.com, or go to the website, vanliferx.com. And there's a form down there somewhere where you can contact me and just let me know what your hang up is or what questions you have. And I'm happy to help you guys work it out. And so me and Mr. Freedom did that. I did a little bit of just a Zoom call with him and kind of figured out where he was at. And I think he's going to get a box truck. So I hope that I know he was in the process of saving up to get the box truck of his dreams. And so I hope he is still saving, working towards that goal. And I hope in the very near future, he will be in Team Box Truck. So hello, Mr. Freedom, and thank you for joining us today. Moving right on to my next question. This is kind of similar to what I already talked about. Catherine says, I want to use a house refrigerator rather than the small 12-volt refrigerator. Can I do that with a simple solar system? The answer is yes. You can absolutely use a residential house refrigerator. The difference is it runs on 120 volts instead of 12 volts. So it will use, well, no matter what, it will use more energy because it's much larger. Just physically, you're cooling a lot more space. You're going to have a lot more groceries inside. So it's going to take a lot more energy to cool that refrigerator down. So it will use more power, but also it will have to be plugged into your power inverter all the time. And your power inverter will have to be on all the time. So you have to take into consideration when you're doing your calculations, you have to calculate in, you're going to use a 110 volt refrigerator, and make sure that when you guys get a power inverter, you want to get a good quality one. You want to get one that can run 24/7, 365 for multiple years at a time. If you just get a cheap no-name Amazon power inverter and it goes out on you, then you're going to lose your refrigerator and all the delicious goodies inside of it. So that's also something I just wanted to speak about, is when you're buying, and that actually leads right into the next question beautifully. This isn't even planned, guys. This is just the universe delivering a very nice flow to today's presentation. But when you're buying your components, don't buy the cheap stuff. Don't buy the cheapest stuff. You don't have to buy the most expensive. In fact, in my van, nothing I own is the most expensive. I'm not one of those guys. I believe that the best value lies somewhere in between the cheapest and the most expensive. I'm usually about, if there's the cheapest and the most expensive, and then there's the right down the middle, I'm the 3/4 of the way guy, right? So I don't buy the like top dollar high end name brand. I buy the one that's like right below it, that's really well trusted and has good reviews, but it's not quite as expensive, just because I think that's the best value for me. So make sure you guys, when you're buying your electrical system components, buy good quality stuff. It's one thing if you buy a cheap sink, or you want to buy cheap flooring, or you want to buy cheap windows. That's fine. You're not going to, you're not going to run out of a refrigerator and lose produce and die in the desert if your cheap flooring goes bad, right? But your electrical system, that is your lifeline. That is powering your refrigerator. It's holding your food. It might be powering your water system. It's powering your lighting. If your electrical system goes out, you are screwed. And you don't want to be living out in the forest somewhere, out in the desert somewhere, and your electrical system goes out because you saved $20 by buying some cheap inverter off Amazon. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. So going along with my little spiel, my next question is from Glenn. Glenn says, I noticed that you recommend Renogy brand products in your ebook. Why not Victron? I hear they are the best. And so Glenn is right. I recommend Renogy brand products. For 5 years, I have personally been using Renogy brand products. They don't sponsor me. I just use their stuff and I pay for it out of my own pocket. But I've used all kinds of different versions of their charge controllers, solar panels, power inverters, all kinds of different components, their battery monitors. I've used all their stuff and it works great. It's affordable. It's reliable. I mean, that's it. That's what I like. I like affordable and I like reliable. And so Victron is definitely kind of the best. In van life electrical, they are the BMW, they're the Mercedes, they are the what's another high-end brand? I don't know. They're the Louis Vuitton, they're the Coach. So they make a really good quality product, really good, and it's really expensive. And I think that's great, right? Like, some guy says to me, hey, their power inverter, it lasts you, 50 years. And that's great. I'm glad that it lasts so long and you can have 20 years on your power inverter or 50 years, whatever. But, I don't need a power inverter that lasts me 20 years, and I think a lot of people, they might not need a 20-year power inverter. If I get 10 years out of mine, I'm happy, whatever. So, yes, Victron makes great stuff. It's really expensive. I feel like I don't need it. And so that's the only reason why. I have nothing against Victron. I think they're great. If Victron gave me free products, I would happily use them. And if Victron's products were priced about 50% lower, I would gladly use them. But for me, it's just not, I don't need it. It's been 5 years. I haven't used it. I don't need it. I'm not going to. So that's just my spiel. But I think they're great. And if you want to use Victron, good for you. And if you have a huge budget, congratulations. So that's my spiel. Yeah, Mr. Freedom popped in. He says he's going to get a 16-footer box truck. So I'm happy to hear it. I think 16-foot box truck is the sweet spot. The one I have now is the 12-foot box. And, just a little bit more would give you so much more wiggle room. So I just want to let you guys know, I'm also searching. Prices on vehicles are crazy right now. They're out of control. Make sure you're searching everywhere. So this is for Mr. Freedom and anyone else watching. If you're looking for a van, a box truck, a bus, whatever you want, check on Facebook Marketplace. That's the first place you should check. A lot of people use it because it's so easy to just post a vehicle on Facebook Marketplace and you're done with it. So go to Facebook Marketplace, but don't just search near you. Go up in the corner. There's like a little compass pin and you can change your destination. So, select a location that's in a big city near you that you're willing to drive to that might be a couple hours away. So when I bought my last vehicle, my shuttle bus, I was staying in Pahrump, Nevada on BLM land, and I found this shuttle bus on Facebook Marketplace in Las Vegas, Nevada. But if I didn't change my search results to Las Vegas, I never would have seen that bus. And if you guys are in a small town, you're going to have a hard time finding stuff. So make sure you look around you and be prepared. You might have to drive 2 or 3 hours to look at a vehicle that you want to buy, but it's worth it right now. The market's tough. So what's most important is that you get a good value. So check Facebook Marketplace, change your location, check Craigslist, also change your location, look in the big cities near you. I don't really recommend Van Life Trader unless you're looking for a fully converted vehicle. If you want to spend 30, 40, 60, $200,000 on a van and it's already converted, then Van Life Trader is a good choice. Also, I recommend a website called commercialtrucktrader.com. It's all one word, commercialtrucktrader.com. They have a lot of box trucks and a lot of buses for sale, but they are more expensive because they're marketed like to businesses that have a little more cash flow. And a lot of times it's newer vehicles. So they might have stuff that's like 25 grand, 30 grand, but there are still some good deals there. So make sure you check out Commercial Truck Trader if you're looking for a vehicle. And then there's also some government auction websites. So you can go, the other thing I was going to say, if you want a box truck, go to U-Haul. Just go to Google and type in U-Haul box truck for sale. U-Haul sells their own box trucks on their own website. They sell their old inventory. So I was looking the other day, you can get a 16-foot box truck in good condition for like 10 grand on uhaul.com. Also, Penske Truck Rentals and Budget Truck Rentals, they sell their fleets as well. So go to those guys, check them out. If you want a box truck, you can buy one directly from them. They inspect it. You don't have to worry about trying to get it inspected on your own or some guy cheating you out of selling you a crappy broken rig. So check all those sources. Also, there's some government auctions. Just type in like government vehicle auctions. It'll pull up and you can find them there too. So it's important to check every day, look every day when you're searching for a vehicle, because in this market, stuff will sell as quick as it's listed because people want it and they're buying them and converting them and selling them. So check every day. All right, guys, that's it. It's been 1 hour. I've been yelling at you guys for 1 hour. We've been talking about solar. We've been talking about van life. I hope you guys learned something. I appreciate you so much for coming in. I can't do these live streams without you guys. I got to have an audience. I got to have someone to talk to. I got to have someone to ask me questions. So thank you so much. If you have any additional questions, you can find me at vanliferx.com. There's ways to get in touch with me. Do it there. Next week on the live stream, I'm going to have guests, Frankie and Alex from F&A Van Life. They're a super fun van life couple, and we're just going to talk about all kinds of stuff. I've known them for years, and it's going to be a really fun chat. We'll also be taking questions. That will be here on YouTube. They're pretty big YouTubers, so they might have some YouTube audience joining in. I don't know. But anyway, next week, Wednesday, same place, same time, 2 p.m. Pacific. Come join me for the live with F&A Van Life. We're going to have a good time, guys. It's going to be fun. So again, thank you for joining. There will be a replay of this chat available within a few hours. So if you want to go back and watch it, you can right here. That's it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.